hitting Mama hard. She's dying. Please save her.
Wait, what? Where's your mom? What's going on and who's hitting her?
Sometimes the loudest engines carry the softest hearts, and sometimes a cry for help finds its echo among those the world fears most. What begins as a lazy Sunday morning among brothers ends as a reckoning that transforms lives, proving that redemption often arrives on chrome and thunder, announced by the desperate plea of a child who had nowhere else to turn. Welcome to Life in Stories, where every tale reminds us that heroes come in unexpected forms. Courage shows up in the smallest hearts, and redemption is always possible. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and join our community of story lovers. We share powerful narratives about real human courage, second chances, and the bonds that hold us together when everything falls apart. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story that might change how you see the world. Now let's begin. Jake's pit stop sat off Highway 287 like a forgotten relic of old Texas. Its weathered wood siding and neon beer signs marked a place where oil-stained hands and leather-clad backs gathered over cheap whiskey and cheaper coffee. The kind of establishment that survived on loyalty rather than ambiance, where the jukebox only played country from before 2000, and the health inspector had long since given up trying to enforce code violations that predated his career. On this Sunday morning, the kind of morning where the heat already shimmered off the asphalt at 10 a.m., and the cicadas screamed their endless song, 5 members of the Hells Angels Amarillo chapter occupied the back corner of the bar. Their Harley-Davidsons lined up outside like sleeping beasts, chrome glinting in the relentless Texas sun. Rex Grizzly Donovan sat with his back to the wall, as he always did. A habit from his years inside, when keeping your back exposed was an invitation to a shank. At 53, Grizzly carried his life in the lines of his face. Deep grooves around his eyes from squinting into 1,000 sunsets, a scar bisecting his left eyebrow from a bar fight in Lubbock he barely remembered, and hands that looked like they'd been carved from oak and weathered by sandpaper. He was mid-laugh at one of Tiny's stories, something about a blown tire outside Albuquerque and a widow who'd invited him in for lemonade when the bar's screen door didn't open so much as explode inward, banging against the wall with a violence that killed every conversation dead. The sudden silence was absolute. Even the jukebox seemed to pause between songs, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. A little girl stood in the doorway. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old, small for her age, with tangled blonde hair that hung in her face and wide blue eyes that had seen too much, too soon. She wore a faded pink nightgown, the kind with cartoon ponies that little girls love, now torn at the shoulder, revealing a bruise already purpling on her collarbone. Her small face was streaked with tears and dust, as if she'd been crying for miles. Her bare feet, impossibly small and vulnerable, left tiny bloody prints on the worn floorboards. Her chest heaved with panicked breaths, and her voice, raw and breaking, edged with a terror that only children can truly convey, cut through the stunned silence like a serrated blade dragged across glass. "Please! They're beating my mama! Please help!" The words hung in the air, stark and desperate. Lily May's thoughts raced with pure animal terror, the kind that bypasses reason and operates on instinct alone. When the bad man hurts mama and nobody comes when she screams, when the neighbors close their curtains and pretend they don't hear, you run. You run barefoot across gravel that cuts your feet and doesn't matter. You run to the biggest, scariest people you can find, because maybe, just maybe, scary means strong enough to make him stop. She'd heard the motorcycles rumbling outside, their engines like thunder, Remembered Mama once saying that bikers had a code about protecting women and kids and made a choice born of pure desperation: trust strangers or watch Mama die. Grizzly's beer bottle hit the table with a dull thunk. 5 bikers stood as one, chairs scraping against the floor in a harsh symphony. The bartender, Jake himself, a former rodeo rider with a beer gut and a lazy eye, froze mid-pour, whiskey streaming past the glass he'd forgotten to watch. The 2 regulars at the corner, both ranch hands nursing their 3rd drink before noon, stared wide-eyed, uncertain whether to help or hide. Bikers had reputations: violence, chaos, danger, the kind of men mothers warned their daughters about. But Lily Mae Matthews didn't run away from them. She ran toward them, straight to Grizzly, her tiny hands grabbing fistfuls of his leather vest, the one with patches from 23 years on the road, from chapters in 6 states, from runs he'd survived and brothers he'd buried. And her eyes pleaded with an urgency that transcended fear, transcended caution. "Please, mister," she gasped, her words tumbling over each other. "He's gonna kill her, at the motel, the Creekside, room 12, Mama's boyfriend, her ex-boyfriend. He found us. He's hurting her real bad. Please, please, you gotta help. She stopped screaming and that means—" Her voice broke entirely. Grizzly looked down at this trembling child, at the desperation etched in every line of her small face, at the blood on her feet and the bruise on her shoulder. Then he looked at his brothers. Bear, 6'5" and built like his namesake, with hands that could crush a man's windpipe or cradle a kitten with equal ease. Rocco, former Army Ranger, 2 tours in Afghanistan, who still woke up screaming some nights but never talked about why. Tiny, who stood 5 feet 6 inches and weighed 140 soaking wet, but had once beaten 3 men unconscious with a pool cue for disrespecting a waitress. Jax, the youngest at 32, new to the chapter but already proven, with tattoos that told stories he'd rather forget. No words needed. They'd lived by a code for years, some of them for decades. A code that mattered more than the law, more than reputation, more than the fear in civilians' eyes when they walked into a room. Protect your own, and those who got no one else. "Show us," Grizzly said, his voice gravel and gunpowder and absolute certainty. He grabbed his keys from the table. Bear was already moving toward the door. Rocco pulled out his phone, not calling yet but ready. Tiny knelt briefly to Lily's level. "You ride with me, little one." "Hold on tight." The child's eyes widened. "On a motorcycle?" "Fastest way there. Your mama needs us now, not in 10 minutes. You scared of bikes?" Lily shook her head violently. "I'm scared of him." "Then let's go make sure he's the one who gets scared." Jake called from behind the bar. "You boys need backup?" "Call Sheriff Eli," Grizzly said over his shoulder. "Tell him Creekside Motel, room 12. Domestic violence in progress. Tell him we're already on our way and he better bring an ambulance." The engines roared to life in sequence, a thunderous declaration that shook the windows of Jake's pit stop and sent dust spiraling into the morning air. Lily climbed onto the back of Tiny's bike, her small arms wrapping around his waist, her nightgown fluttering like a distress flag. 5 motorcycles tore out of the parking lot, gravel spraying, leaving behind a silence even more profound than the one that had greeted Lily's entrance. The 2 ranch hands stared at each other. "Did that just happen?" one asked. "Yeah," the other said quietly. "And God help whoever's waiting at that motel." The Creekside Motel was exactly the kind of place where bad things happened and nobody asked questions. 2 stories of peeling paint and sagging balconies, rooms rented by the hour or the week, a parking lot full of cars that had seen better decades. The kind of place where domestic disputes were background noise, where the front desk clerk had learned long ago that hearing nothing and seeing nothing kept you employed. The manager didn't even look up when 5 Harleys roared into the parking lot, engines cutting simultaneously. But room 12's door was already open, and the sounds coming from inside made Grizzly's blood turn to ice. The scene they found was a nightmare given form. Sarah Matthews was on the floor between the bed and the wall, curled in a defensive position that spoke of too much practice, too many times in exactly this place. Travis Cole, her ex-boyfriend, 6'2" of muscle gone to fat and meanness, wearing a stained wife beater and jeans riding low, drove his boot into her ribs. Again, and again, and again. Each impact made a sound like a mallet hitting a sack of wet grain. Sarah's face was already a grotesque mask of swelling and blood, her nose clearly broken, both eyes starting to blacken, her lips split so deeply that blood ran down her chin and soaked into her white t-shirt. Her arms covered her head, her body curled to protect her vital organs. She'd stopped screaming. That's what had terrified Lily most, and now Grizzly understood why. The silence of a victim who'd run out of strength, out of hope, out of voice. The silence that came right before something irreversible. "Travis, stop, please. Lily, where's—" Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, slurred by swelling and pain. Travis looked up as 5 men in leather vests appeared in the doorway, backlit by the harsh Texas sun, so they looked like avenging shadows. His face, flushed red with exertion and alcohol, eyes glazed with the particular madness of a man who'd convinced himself he owned another human being, twisted into a sneer. "The hell is this?" He stepped over Sarah's body like she was furniture. "This ain't your business, bikers. Get lost before I call the cops on you. She's my woman. We're just having a discussion." Grizzly stopped 3 feet from the doorway. Behind him, Bear cracked his knuckles, a sound like branches breaking. Rocco pulled out his phone, already dialing 911. Jax positioned himself to cut off any escape route through the room's back window. Tiny stayed with Lily by the bikes, one massive hand on her shoulder, keeping her from seeing what was about to happen. "She's not your woman anymore," Grizzly said, his voice low and even, the kind of calm that comes before a hurricane. "And you just made it our business when her little girl came running to us, barefoot and bleeding, crying and begging us to save her mama from a coward who beats women." Travis puffed up, fists clenched, chest out, drunk on adrenaline and cheap vodka and the kind of arrogance that comes from years of getting away with violence against someone who couldn't fight back. "You think I'm scared of you? I'll drop all 5 of—" Grizzly didn't let him finish. One punch, clean, brutal, precise. A straight right cross that carried 30 years of road rage, bar fights, prison yard justice, and absolute moral certainty. His fist connected with Travis's jaw with a sound like a hammer hitting a side of beef. Travis's head snapped sideways, his eyes rolled back, and he crumpled like wet cardboard, hitting the stained carpet in a graceless heap, out cold before he knew what hit him. The other angels moved immediately, a coordinated machine of purpose. Bear and Jax knelt beside Sarah, checking her pulse, her breathing, assessing damage with the efficiency of men who'd seen combat and knew basic field medicine. "Pulse is strong," Bear reported, breathing shallow but steady. "Ribs likely cracked. Possible concussion. She needs an ER." Rocco spoke clearly into his phone. "Assault in progress, Creekside Motel, room 12, highway 287. Victim is a female, 30s, conscious but severely injured. Suspect is subdued. Send ambulance and police immediately." "This is not a prank call." Grizzly stepped outside where Tiny held Lily. He crouched to her eye level, making himself small, non-threatening despite his size. "You okay, little one?" Lily nodded, tears streaming down her face, her whole body shaking. Is Mama okay? Is she—" "She's hurt," Grizzly said honestly, "but she's breathing. And the bad man can't hurt her anymore. You saved her, you know that? You were brave enough to run for help when it mattered most. I didn't know what else to do, Lily whispered. She told me to run, so I ran. You ran to exactly the right people. Inside room 12, Sarah was conscious but barely tethered to awareness. Her left eye was swollen completely shut, an angry purple-black that would take weeks to heal. Her lips were split in 2 places, blood still seeping. Every breath came with a wet, clicking sound that suggested broken ribs, possibly punctured lung. Her hands shook uncontrollably, shock setting in. Bear used his bandana as a compress for the worst cut on her forehead. Jax kept her talking, his voice surprisingly gentle for a man covered in scars and prison tattoos. What's your name, ma'am? Sarah. Good. What's your daughter's name? Lily. Where's Lily? She's safe. She's right outside with our brother. Not a scratch on her. She's the bravest kid I've ever met. What year is it, Sarah? 24. That's right. Stay with me. Ambulance is coming. You're gonna be fine. Grizzly brought Lily inside, but positioned himself to block her view of Travis's unconscious form. Mama! Lily rushed forward, grabbing her mother's hand. Sarah's one good eye focused on her daughter, and something like relief broke through the pain. Baby, you okay? I found help, Mama. Just like you said. The bikers. They stopped him. Sarah's gaze shifted to Grizzly, kneeling beside her. Through the swelling and blood, through the pain and trauma, her expression held something like wonder. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Grizzly said quietly. Just stay awake till the ambulance gets here. You did good, raising a daughter brave enough to save your life. Now let us do the rest. Sheriff Eli Grant arrived with lights flashing, followed by an ambulance and a second patrol car. At 62, Eli had seen everything Dusty Creek and the surrounding counties had to offer: meth labs, cattle rustling, highway fatalities, and every flavor of human cruelty the Texas plains could produce. He knew the Hells Angels Amarillo chapter. They'd partnered on 3 annual toy drives for underprivileged kids. They'd volunteered security for the county fair when budget cuts threatened to cancel it. They'd helped with a fundraiser when Deputy Martinez's house burned down. In 20 years, they'd never caused a single incident in his jurisdiction. Grizzly, Eli greeted, taking in the scene with the practiced eye of a veteran lawman. An unconscious man on the floor, a brutalized woman being tended by bikers, a small girl in a torn nightgown. The story wrote itself. What happened? Little girl ran into Jake's pit stop, crying that her mama was being beaten. We followed her here, found that piece of trash kicking a woman half to death. Grizzly gestured to Travis. We restrained him. Called you, that's all. Eli glanced at Travis, now cuffed by his deputy, coming to with a groan and a string of curses. Travis Cole. Oh, I know this son of a bitch. We've got 2 active restraining orders on file. Sarah Matthews pressed charges twice. He kept finding her, violated the orders 6 times, but she dropped charges out of fear. Not anymore, Grizzly said, his voice like iron wrapped in velvet. This time you got 5 witnesses, security camera footage from the motel, and enough evidence to lock him up for real. And if he makes bail... He didn't finish the sentence. Didn't need to. Eli nodded slowly. Understood. The paramedics loaded Sarah onto a stretcher, working quickly and efficiently. Lily climbed up beside her, refusing to let go of her mother's hand. Her small body pressed against Sarah's side like she could protect her now, too late but still trying. One of the EMTs tried to gently separate them. Honey, we need room to work. She stays, Bear said quietly. Kid just saved her mama's life. She's earned the right to stay close. The EMT looked at the 5 bikers, then at Sheriff Eli. Eli shrugged. Let the girl ride with her mother. She's the only family Sarah's got. As the paramedics secured Sarah for transport, Lily's small voice cracked the air, barely audible over the commotion but clear enough to stop Grizzly mid-step. Will you... She swallowed hard, her blue eyes wide and wet. Will you come check on us? At the hospital? Grizzly's weathered face softened in a way his brothers rarely saw. The hard lines around his eyes, carved by years of violence and survival, seemed to ease. He crouched down one more time, bringing himself to her level. Promise, kid. We'll make sure you're both safe. Nobody's gonna hurt you or your mama again. Lily nodded, then did something that would haunt Grizzly for weeks to come. She reached out and squeezed his calloused hand with her tiny fingers. Thank you for coming when I called. The ambulance doors closed. Sirens wailed. The emergency vehicle kicked up dust as it peeled out of the parking lot, heading toward Dusty Creek Memorial Hospital 15 miles east. Travis Cole sat handcuffed on the curb, blood dripping from his nose, his jaw already swelling from Grizzly's punch. The fight had drained out of him, replaced by the sullen anger of a man who knew he'd been caught. Deputy Frank Martinez, a stocky man with kind eyes and a zero-tolerance policy for domestic abusers, read Travis his rights while Sheriff Eli supervised. You have the right to remain silent. This is bullshit, Travis spat, literally, blood and saliva hitting the pavement. She's my girlfriend. We were just arguing. These psycho bikers assaulted me. I'm pressing charges. Eli's expression didn't change. Mr. Cole, you were witnessed by 5 men violently assaulting Ms. Matthews. There's blood evidence throughout that motel room. The victim has injuries consistent with prolonged battery. You violated 2 restraining orders, and there's a 7-year-old witness who watched you try to kill her mother. She's lying. The kid's lying. The kid has bloody feet from running barefoot across gravel to get help, Eli said coldly. Her mother has 2 black eyes, a broken nose, split lips, and probably broken ribs from being kicked repeatedly. You got 1 punch to the face that you probably deserved. Now shut your mouth before I add resisting arrest to your charges. Travis started to argue, then saw the expression on Eli's face and thought better of it. Across the parking lot, the 5 angels stood in a loose circle, processing what had just happened. That little girl's got more guts than most men I know, Jack said quietly. 7 years old, Rocco added, shaking his head. Barefoot, bleeding, ran into a bar full of strangers because she had nobody else. Bear lit a cigarette, his hands surprisingly steady. World's a fucked up place when a kid has to choose between bikers and watching her mama die. She chose right, though, Tiny said. Chose us. Grizzly stood apart from them, staring at the blood on his knuckles. Travis's blood. He'd hit men before, hundreds of times. Bar fights, prison riots, defending territory, defending brothers. But this felt different. This felt righteous. Grizzly. Sheriff Eli approached, notebook in hand. Need your statement. What do you need to know? Start from the beginning. When did the child first make contact? Grizzly walked Eli through it. Lily's explosive entrance into Jake's, her desperate plea, the decision to follow her, what they'd found in room 12, his punch, securing Travis, calling 911. You hit him once? Eli asked. Once. He went down. He's claiming you beat him. Check the motel security cameras. You'll see exactly what happened. 1 punch. Clean. Defensive intervention to stop an ongoing assault. Eli made notes. And the other 4? They witnessed the same thing. Every second. All right. Eli closed his notebook. I don't anticipate any charges against you or your boys. This is pretty cut and dry. Citizen intervention to stop a violent felony. Good Samaritan situation. But I'll need statements from all of you within 24 hours. We'll come by the station tomorrow. Eli paused, then extended his hand. What you boys did today, that little girl's gonna remember it for the rest of her life. Grizzly shook the sheriff's hand, his grip firm. Just did what needed doing. Most people would have looked the other way, called 911, and waited. You didn't wait. Kid was bleeding and crying. Waiting wasn't an option. As Eli walked back to his patrol car, Bear sidled up next to Grizzly. So what now? Now? Grizzly looked at his brother. Now we go to the hospital and make sure that woman and her kid are okay. And after that? Grizzly thought about Lily's hand in his, about Sarah's whispered thanks, about the terror in that motel room and the absolute certainty that if they hadn't come, Sarah Matthews would be dead right now. After that, we figure out how to keep them safe. Because you know damn well Travis Cole's gonna make bail eventually, and when he does, he'll come looking for her, Rocco finished. Yeah, he will. So we make sure he finds us first, Bear said, no question in his voice. Statement of fact. Tiny cracked his knuckles. I like that plan. Jax nodded. Brotherhood means protecting people who can't protect themselves. That's the code. That's always been the code. Grizzly looked at his 4 brothers, men who'd saved his life more times than he could count, men who'd been to hell and back alongside him, men who understood that sometimes the law wasn't enough and sometimes justice required getting your hands dirty. Then we're agreed. Sarah Matthews and Lily May are under club protection until this threat is permanently gone. 4 heads nodded in unison. All right then. Grizzly pulled his keys from his pocket. Let's ride to the hospital. And somebody call Bull. Tell the president we need an emergency chapter meeting tonight. We got a situation that needs club approval and resources. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and desperation, that particular combination of bleach and fear that permeates every emergency room in America. The angels walked through the sliding glass doors, 5 large men in leather vests and road-worn boots, and every head turned. A security guard straightened, hand moving instinctively toward his radio. Grizzly approached the information desk calmly, removing his sunglasses. The middle-aged woman behind the desk, name tag reading Patricia, looked up with thinly veiled apprehension. We're here to check on Sarah Matthews and her daughter Lily. They were brought in about 2 hours ago. Domestic assault victim. Patricia's expression shifted from wariness to understanding. Are you family? We're the ones who pulled her attacker off her and called 911. Her fingers flew across her keyboard. Room 237, 2nd floor, but... She hesitated. She's been sedated. Broken ribs, broken nose, severe contusions. The little girl's with her. We just want to make sure they're okay. We promised the kid we'd check in. Something in Grizzly's voice, the genuine concern, the quiet conviction, made Patricia soften. 2nd floor, turn right off the elevator, but please keep it brief. Ms. Matthews needs rest. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The elevator ride was silent. 5 men, each processing the morning in their own way. When the doors opened on the 2nd floor, they found room 237 at the end of the hall. The door was cracked open. Inside, Sarah Matthews lay in a narrow hospital bed, her face so swollen she was barely recognizable, both eyes blackened and puffed shut, nose in a splint, lips stitched, her torso wrapped in bandages for the broken ribs. An IV drip fed fluids and painkillers into her arm, and beside her, curled up on the hospital bed despite regulations, was Lily. The little girl had been cleaned up. Someone had washed the dirt and blood from her face, bandaged her feet, given her a hospital gown that swallowed her tiny frame. But she refused to leave her mother's side, one small hand clutching Sarah's, her face pressed against her mother's shoulder. Both were asleep. For the first time in what must have been weeks, maybe months, they slept without fear. A nurse, Monica, stepped out of the room and nearly collided with the bikers. She was in her 50s, black, with kind eyes, and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd seen everything. "You the bikers who saved her?" Grizzly removed his hat, an old-fashioned gesture his mother had taught him decades ago. "We helped, ma'am." Monica's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. "She told me everything before the sedatives kicked in. That monster stalked her for 2 months. She left him, moved 3 towns over, changed her phone number, her job, everything. He kept finding her. Tracked her through social media, through mutual friends, through sheer obsession." Her voice hardened. "If that little girl hadn't found you, if you hadn't come—" "But we did," Grizzly said quietly. "That's all that matters now. She has no family, no money. She spent everything she had running from him. When she gets released in a few days, she has nowhere to go. He knows every shelter, every women's resource center in 3 counties. The 5 angels exchanged glances. "We'll figure something out," Bear said. Monica studied them. These rough men in leather and denim, with scarred knuckles and prison tattoos, with reputations that preceded them everywhere they went. And she saw something that contradicted every stereotype. She saw protectors. "Thank you," she said simply, "for caring when you didn't have to." Grizzly approached the doorway, careful not to wake mother or daughter. He stood there for a long moment, watching them sleep. 2 people who'd been running for their lives just hours ago, now safe for perhaps the first time in months. Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She saw Grizzly standing in the doorway and smiled. A small, fragile thing, but genuine. "You came," she whispered. "Promised I would. Is the bad man gone?" "He's in jail, little one. He can't hurt you or your mama anymore." "Forever?" Grizzly crouched beside the bed. "I can't promise forever. But I can promise this. As long as you need us, we'll be here. You understand? You and your mama aren't alone anymore." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you being so nice to us?" "You don't even know us." It was a question Grizzly would ask himself later, in the quiet hours of the night. Why did this hit him so hard? Why did this little girl's cry for help crack something open in his chest that he'd thought sealed shut years ago? But in that moment, the answer was simple. "Because you asked for help," he said. "And we don't walk away from people who need us." Lily reached out and took his hand again, her tiny fingers impossibly small against his scarred palm. "My mama said angels are real. I didn't believe her, but you're real." Something broke inside Grizzly's chest, something old and calcified and painful. "Get some rest, kid. We'll be around." The Hells Angels. Amarillo Clubhouse sat 15 miles outside Dusty Creek on a piece of property the chapter had owned for 20 years. A converted warehouse with reinforced doors, security cameras, and enough motorcycle memorabilia to fill a museum. The main room held a bar, pool tables, worn couches, and a long table where chapter business was conducted. Tonight, 20 members had shown up. Bull Thompson, the chapter president, sat at the head of the table. A Vietnam veteran with silver hair, a weathered face, and eyes that had seen too much death to be impressed by much anymore. But even Bull had been moved by the morning's events. Grizzly stood, addressing the assembled brothers. "Most of you heard what happened this morning. For those who didn't, here's the short version. A 7-year-old girl ran into Jake's pit stop, barefoot and bleeding, begging us to save her mother from being beaten to death by her ex-boyfriend. We followed her to the Creekside Motel, found the mother being kicked unconscious. We intervened. Suspects in custody, victims in the hospital with broken ribs, broken nose, severe trauma." He paused, letting it sink in. Here's the problem. The mother, Sarah Matthews, has no family, no resources, no safe place to go. The suspect, Travis Cole, will make bail within a week, maybe sooner. When he does, he's going to come looking for her. And he's the type who won't stop until one of them is dead. Murmurs rippled through the room. "What are you proposing?" Bull asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "Club protection. We find Sarah and Lily a safe place to stay, something Travis doesn't know about. We provide security. We make it clear to Travis Cole that if he comes near them again, he's dealing with all of us." "That's a big commitment," one of the older members, Chains, said. "We talking days, weeks, months? However long it takes." "We're not a charity, Grizzly," another member objected. "We got families of our own to protect." "That little girl chose us," Grizzly said, his voice rising. "She was 7 years old, terrified, and she ran to us for help. Not the cops, not social services, U.S., because somewhere in that kid's heart, she believed we'd answer. And we did. Now you're telling me we just walk away? Let her and her mama go back to running, hiding, waiting for Travis to find them and finish what he started?" Silence. Bull spoke carefully. "The club's got a code. Protect the innocent, especially women and children fleeing violence. That's always been our way. But this is asking brothers to put themselves on the line for people they don't know." "I know them," Grizzly said quietly. "I looked that little girl in the eyes when she begged for help. I saw what that animal did to her mother. And I made a promise. If the club won't back it, I'll handle it myself. But I'm asking, as a brother who's bled with you, ridden with you, done time for this patch, I'm asking you to stand with me on this." Bear stood. "I'm in." Rocco stood. "I'm in." Tiny stood. "I'm in." Jack stood. "I'm in." One by one, the other members rose. Bull surveyed the room, then nodded slowly. "Motion carries!" Sarah Matthews and Lily May are under Hell's Angels Amarillo chapter protection until the threat is neutralized. Grizzly, your point on this. Coordinate security, housing, resources. Anyone got a problem with that? Silence. Solidarity. Then it settled. Bull rapped his knuckles on the table. "Let's make sure that little girl's faith in us wasn't misplaced. But to truly understand why Rex Grizzly Donovan couldn't walk away, why a child's cry for help hit him harder than any punch he'd ever taken, you have to understand who he'd been before leather and chrome became his armor. You have to understand the ghosts he carried, and why saving Sarah and Lily Matthews felt less like heroism and more like his last chance at redemption for failures that still haunted his dreams. Because sometimes the people you save end up saving you right back. 3 days after the rescue, Sarah Matthews woke screaming. The hospital room materialized around her in fragments. Sterile white walls, the steady beep of monitors, the antiseptic smell that couldn't quite mask the underlying scent of illness and fear. Her hands flew to her face, feeling the bandages, the swelling, the physical evidence of Travis's rage. For a terrible moment, she couldn't remember where Lily was. "Mama, I'm here." "I'm right here." Sarah's head whipped to the side, too fast, sending pain lancing through her broken ribs, and found Lily curled in the bedside chair, wrapped in a blanket Monica had brought. Her daughter's face was pale but alert, those blue eyes watching with the hypervigilance of a child who'd learned too young that safety was temporary. "Baby?" Sarah's voice cracked. "I'm sorry." "I'm so sorry." "You don't gotta be sorry, Mama." "You didn't do nothing wrong." But Sarah felt the weight of every wrong decision that had led them here. Meeting Travis at that bar in Amarillo 2 years ago. Believing him when he said he'd changed after the first time he hit her. Taking him back after the second time. The third. Thinking she could manage his jealousy, his drinking, his rage. thinking she could protect Lily while staying with a man who saw them both as possessions. The door opened quietly. Grizzly entered, holding a paper bag that smelled like bacon and coffee. He'd been coming every morning since the rescue, bringing breakfast, checking security, making sure they had everything they needed. He never stayed long, seemed uncomfortable with gratitude, with the role of protector that had been thrust upon him. "Morning," he said, his voice gravel-rough but gentle. "Brought pancakes. The good kind from Sally's, not hospital cafeteria garbage." Lily's face lit up. "With syrup?" "With enough syrup to give you a sugar rush till Tuesday." He handed her a container. "Your mama's got eggs and toast." Doctor's orders. Protein for healing. Sarah accepted the food with trembling hands. "You don't have to keep doing this. Didn't ask what I had to do. I do what I want to do." Grizzly pulled up a chair, deliberately keeping distance, never crowding. "Doctor says you're getting released tomorrow. We need to talk about what happens next." Sarah's stomach twisted. I have some money saved. Maybe enough for first month's rent somewhere. I'll find work. I just need... Travis made bail yesterday." The words landed like a physical blow. Sarah's face drained of color. The container of eggs slipped from her hands, landing on the bed with a soft thump. No, he can't. They said... the restraining order." "His brother posted bail," Grizzly said quietly. $50,000. Travis walked out of county lockup at 4 p.m. yesterday. He's got conditions. Can't leave the state, can't contact you, can't come within 500 feet. But we both know he won't follow them. He'll find me. Sarah's voice was hollow. He always finds me. Last time I moved to Lubbock, changed my name at work, told nobody where I was going. He found me in 6 weeks. Before that, I tried Wichita Falls. He found me in 3. He's got friends, people who help him. He'll... Her breathing accelerated, panic setting in. "Mama, breathe!" Like the doctor showed us. Lily climbed onto the bed, taking her mother's hand. Grizzly waited until Sarah's breathing slowed, then spoke with absolute certainty. "He won't find you this time. Because you're not running alone anymore. The club's voted. You and Lily are under our protection. We've got a safe house set up. Secure location. Nobody knows about it except chapter members. 24-hour security rotation. You'll stay there until Travis is back behind bars permanently or until he understands that coming after you means dealing with all of us." Sarah stared at him. "Why would you do this?" "You don't even know us." It was the same question Lily had asked. The same question Grizzly had been asking himself for 3 days. "Because your daughter asked for help," he said finally, "and because walking away now would make us complicit in whatever Travis does next. That's not who we are. I can't pay you. I didn't ask you to pay. This isn't a transaction, Sarah. This is..." He searched for words. "This is what brothers do. We protect people who can't protect themselves. It's the code. Always has been. For how long? However long it takes." Sarah's eyes filled with tears, not from pain this time, but from something she hadn't felt in years, hope. The possibility that maybe finally someone was strong enough to stand between her and the monster she'd been fleeing. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll trust us. Say you'll let us do what we do best." "Okay," Sarah whispered. "Okay." The safe house sat 30 miles outside Dusty Creek, down a gravel road that didn't appear on most GPS systems. It was a ranch-style home on 40 acres of Texas plains, surrounded by open land that made unauthorized approach impossible to hide. The property belonged to Bull's brother-in-law, a retired Marine who spent most of the year in Arizona and was happy to let the club use it. Bear and Rocco had spent 2 days preparing it, changing locks, installing security cameras, stocking the kitchen, making sure it felt like a home rather than a prison. When Grizzly pulled his truck up the driveway with Sarah and Lily inside, the afternoon sun painted the landscape in gold and amber. Lily pressed her face to the window, eyes wide. "We're gonna live here?" "For a while," Grizzly confirmed. "Until it's safe to move on." The house was modest but clean. 3 bedrooms, a living room with worn furniture, a kitchen that smelled like fresh paint and new possibilities. Someone had put flowers on the table. Someone else had stocked the refrigerator with actual food, not just bachelor staples. Lily ran from room to room, her bandaged feet padding across hardwood floors. "Mama!" "There's a room with bunk beds, and there's a swing set outside." Sarah stood in the doorway, overwhelmed. "This is too much." "This is baseline," Grizzly said. "Security detail rotates every 8 hours. 2 brothers on duty at all times. They'll stay outside, give you privacy, but they'll be here. We've also got panic buttons installed in every room. You push it, every brother within 10 miles gets an alert." He showed her the system, the cameras, the secure locks. Then he handed her a cell phone. "Burner phone. Untraceable. My number's programmed in. So's bears, Roccos, and bulls. You need anything at all, you call. 3 a.m. doesn't matter. We answer." Sarah took the phone with shaking hands. "I'm not used to people helping without wanting something back." "Then get used to it because you're stuck with us until this is over." Lily appeared in the doorway, dragging a stuffed rabbit that one of the brothers had bought. "Mr. Grizzly, is the bad man going to find us here?" Grizzly knelt to her level, as he always did. "Not a chance, kid. We've got eyes everywhere. And if he tries, he'll have to go through all of us first. Will you stay tonight? The first night?" He glanced at Sarah, who nodded almost imperceptibly. "Yeah," he said. "I'll stay tonight." Across town, in a rundown apartment complex near the railroad tracks, Travis Cole sat at a kitchen table covered in empty beer cans and rage. His jaw still ached from Grizzly's punch. The humiliation burned worse than any physical pain. He'd been beaten in front of Sarah, beaten in front of witnesses, arrested like a common criminal, and now she was gone. He'd driven to the hospital twice, but security had been alerted to his restraining order. He'd tried calling her cell, disconnected. He'd gone to her last known address, cleared out, landlord claiming she'd broken the lease and disappeared. Someone was hiding her, those goddamn bikers. Travis pulled up Facebook on his phone, scrolling through Sarah's old profile. She'd deleted it months ago, but the internet never truly forgets. He screenshotted pictures of her, of Lily, sent them to contacts he'd cultivated over 2 years of obsessive stalking. "Anyone seen this woman? My ex. Owes me money. $500 reward for information." Within an hour, responses trickled in. Most were dead ends. But one caught his attention, a guy named Danny who worked at a gas station off Highway 287. "Saw her yesterday. Big biker dude was with her. Filled up a truck, headed east. Couldn't see plates, but the guy had Hell's Angels patch." Travis smiled, cold and predatory. So the bikers were protecting her. That meant they'd taken her somewhere remote, somewhere they controlled. Narrowed the options considerably. The Amarillo chapter only had a few properties, the clubhouse, which was too public, and a handful of rural locations club members owned or had access to. He opened a notebook, the same one where he'd tracked Sarah's movements for months, mapping her routines, her friends, her escape attempts. Now, he'd map the bikers. He had time. The restraining order was a joke. He'd violated 6 of them before. This one wouldn't be different. The legal system moved slowly. His brother's bail money bought him freedom. And freedom meant opportunity. "You can't hide forever, Sarah," he muttered. "And when I find you, you'll wish you died in that motel room." Sarah woke to the smell of coffee and bacon. For a disorienting moment, she panicked. Who was in the house? Where was Lily? Then memory returned. The safe house. Grizzly had stayed the night, sleeping on the couch, keeping watch. She found him in the kitchen, cooking breakfast with surprising competence. Lily sat at the table, coloring in a book someone had brought, chattering away about the horses she'd seen in the distant field. "You cook?" Sarah asked from the doorway. Grizzly glanced over his shoulder. "Learned in the service, then perfected it in prison. You learn real quick that if you can cook, people leave you alone." "You were in prison?" 8 years. Manslaughter. Got out 12 years ago. Been clean since. He said it matter-of-factly. No shame, no pride, just history. "That bother you?" Sarah considered. A week ago it would have terrified her, but she'd seen this man's gentleness with Lily, his respect for boundaries, the way he'd reorganized his entire life to protect two strangers. "No," she said honestly. "It doesn't." "Good. Because honesty's important. You're trusting us with your life. You deserve to know who we are." He plated eggs and bacon, set them on the table. "Bear's coming by at 10 to relieve me. He'll be your security today. Tomorrow it's Rocco. We rotate, keep things unpredictable, makes it harder for Travis to establish patterns. You've done this before." "Protected people?" "A few times. Usually women fleeing domestic situations. We've got a network, safe houses, lawyers who work pro bono, therapists who understand trauma. You're not our first, Sarah. Won't be our last." Lily looked up from her coloring. "Are we really safe here?" "Safest place in Texas, kid." "Safer than Disneyland?" Grizzly smiled, a rare, genuine expression that transformed his weathered face. "Safer than Disneyland." "Can we go outside? I want to see the horses." Sarah tensed instinctively, the reflex of a woman who'd spent months limiting her daughter's freedom to minimize exposure. "Actually," Grizzly said, "I think that's a great idea. Fresh air's good for healing. And those horses belong to Bull's brother-in-law. They're gentle. I'll walk you out, show you around." He caught Sarah's eye. "You're not prisoners here. You're safe. There's a difference. Part of healing is remembering what normal feels like." Bear arrived at 10 a.m. sharp, driving a nondescript Ford pickup that wouldn't attract attention. He was a mountain of a man, 6'5", 280 pounds of muscle and scar tissue, with a graying beard and eyes that had seen combat in 3 different countries. He looked terrifying, until he smiled at Lily and produced a bag of art supplies. "Heard you like drawing," he said, his voice surprisingly soft. "Thought you might need more crayons." Lily hugged his leg, barely reaching his knee. "Thank you, Mr. Bear." "Just Bear, kid." The mister makes me feel old. Grizzly briefed him on the overnight. No incidents, no unusual activity on the cameras. Sarah's nightmares had woken her twice, but she'd managed to get back to sleep. "She talk about Travis?" Bear asked quietly out of earshot. "Some. Mostly she's scared he'll find them. I told her about the bail, figured honesty's better than letting her imagination run wild." "Smart. How's she handling it?" "Better than expected. She's strong. Stronger than she knows." Bear nodded. "They always are. The ones who survive this long, they're steel underneath. Just takes time to remember it." Grizzly gathered his things, leather jacket, keys, the book he'd been reading to pass the night. Before leaving, he stopped in the living room where Sarah sat with Lily watching morning cartoons. "I'm heading out. Bear's got security. You need anything, call." Sarah stood, awkward, unsure of protocol. "Thank you. For everything. For staying last night. Told Lily I would. I keep my promises. Still, you didn't have to." Grizzly met her eyes, really looked at her, seeing past the bruises and swelling to the person underneath. A woman who'd been beaten down but never broken. A mother who'd sacrificed everything to keep her daughter safe. "Yeah, he said quietly. I did. It started with a phone call to the clubhouse. Bull answered, expecting a supplier or a brother checking in. Instead, he heard breathing, heavy, deliberate. I know you've got her, Travis Cole's voice came through, slurred slightly, drunk or high, hard to tell. I know the angels are hiding Sarah, and I know you can't watch her forever. Bull's expression didn't change. This call's being recorded. You're violating a restraining order just by mentioning her name. Keep talking and I'll have Sheriff Grant at your door in 10 minutes. Fuck your sheriff. Fuck your club. She's mine. She's always been mine. And when I find her, and I will, you bikers are gonna learn what happens when you stick your nose in other people's business. You threatening me, boy? I'm promising you. Sarah and that brat are dead, and anyone who gets in my way goes down too. The line went dead. Bull immediately called Grizzly, who was at the safe house. We got a problem. Bull relayed the call. Grizzly's jaw tightened. He's escalating. Desperation makes him dangerous. Agreed. I'm calling an emergency meeting tonight. All members. We need to discuss next steps because this asshole just declared war. Grizzly glanced toward the living room where Sarah was reading to Lily, both of them laughing at something in the book. Peace. Safety. The things Travis wanted to destroy. I'll be there. But I'm doubling security here first. 4 men on rotation instead of 2. Already ahead of you. Tiny and Jax are en route. After hanging up, Grizzly sat for a moment, processing. He'd known Travis would escalate. Men like him always did. Control freaks who saw violence as their birthright, who couldn't comprehend a world where their victims escaped. But hearing the threat made it real. This wasn't over. This was just beginning. 23 members of the Hells Angels Amarillo chapter gathered at the clubhouse that night. The atmosphere was tense, focused. Bull played the recording of Travis's call. The reaction was immediate. Motherfucker's got a death wish, someone muttered. He threatens the club. He threatens all of us, another added. Bull raised a hand for silence. Here's where we stand. Travis Cole made bail, violated his restraining order, and just made terroristic threats against a woman under our protection and against this chapter. He's desperate, which makes him unpredictable. And unpredictable means dangerous. Grizzly stood, addressing the room. Sarah Matthews has been running from this bastard for 2 years, 3 different towns, changed jobs, changed phones, changed everything. He found her every time. He's got resources, friends who help him track her, money from his brother, and the kind of obsession that doesn't quit. So what's the play? Chains asked. We can't babysit them forever. We can babysit them as long as it takes, Grizzly countered. But you're right. We need a permanent solution. Travis needs to be back behind bars with charges that stick. Real time, not 30 days and probation. Rocco, the former Army Ranger, spoke up. Sheriff Grant's sympathetic, but he needs evidence. Right now, all he's got is the assault from the motel. Travis's lawyer will plead it down to simple battery, maybe 6 months. The phone threat helps, but it's not enough. Then we get more evidence, Bear said. We know he's going to try to find Sarah. So we let him try, under controlled conditions. Document everything. Build a case so airtight he goes away for years. You're talking about using Sarah and Lily as bait, Tiny objected. That's risky as hell. Not bait, Grizzly corrected. Bait implies we're leaving them exposed. I'm talking about controlled surveillance. We know Travis is watching, trying to find them. So we give him breadcrumbs that lead nowhere while we document his stalking, his violations, everything he does. Every call, every drive-by, every contact with his informants. Build a federal case, stalking across state lines, terroristic threats, violation of protective orders. Stack charges until he's looking at a decade minimum. Bull considered this. We'd need cooperation from law enforcement. Sheriff Grant's already on our side, and I've got a contact in the FBI. Guy I knew inside who went straight, works cybercrime now. Stalking cases are their jurisdiction when it crosses state lines. Sarah fled from Amarillo to Wichita Falls to Lubbock before landing here. That's interstate. That's federal. What does Sarah think about this? One of the older members asked. It's her life we're playing with. Haven't talked to her yet, Grizzly admitted. Wanted club approval first, but she deserves to know the options. Keep running forever, or stand and fight with us backing her. Bull drummed his fingers on the table. Motion on the floor. We continue protection of Sarah Matthews and her daughter. We coordinate with law enforcement to build a comprehensive case against Travis Cole. We document everything, operate within legal boundaries, and we make goddamn sure this predator goes away for good. All in favor? Every hand rose. Motion carries. Grizzly, you're still point. Coordinate with Sheriff Grant and your FBI contact. Everyone else, maintain security rotations, stay alert, and remember, Travis Cole's watching us as much as we're watching him. Don't get sloppy. As the meeting dispersed, Bear pulled Grizzly aside. You good with this? You're getting awful invested in these two. Grizzly was silent for a moment. That little girl looked me in the eyes and trusted me to save her mother. She didn't know me. Didn't know if I was safe or dangerous. She just knew she needed help and took a chance. When was the last time anyone trusted you like that? Complete faith. No questions. Never, Bear admitted. Exactly. I can't let her down. Won't let her down. Just be careful, brother. Getting emotionally involved can cloud judgment. My judgment's clear. Travis Cole's a dead man walking. He just doesn't know it yet. Grizzly returned to the safe house the next morning, relieving Jax from overnight duty. Sarah was already awake, sitting on the porch with coffee, watching the sunrise paint the Texas sky in shades of orange and pink. Lily was still asleep inside. Mind if I join you? Grizzly asked. Sarah gestured to the empty chair. It's your property. Technically, I should be asking permission. It's your home for now. You don't need permission to exist here. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the kind of quiet that comes from shared understanding rather than awkwardness. I heard him, Sarah said finally. On the phone yesterday, Travis. I was in the kitchen when Bear took the call outside, but I heard him through the window. The threats. Grizzly didn't insult her intelligence by denying it. Yeah. He's not going to stop. Even if you keep me hidden for months, years, the minute I step out of protection, he'll be there. I know. So what's the plan? I stay hidden forever? Move again? New name, new life? Hope he doesn't find us this time? Grizzly turned to face her. There's another option. We build a case, a real case, federal level, that puts Travis away for a decade or more. But it requires you to be willing to testify, to document everything, to work with law enforcement in a way that exposes you to risk. Calculated risk with us protecting you, but risk nonetheless. Sarah's hands tightened around her coffee mug. You mean stand and fight? Yeah. I've never fought back. Not really. I always just ran. Tried to disappear. Tried to make myself small enough that he'd lose interest. Men like Travis don't lose interest. They escalate. You know that. I do. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. I've known it for 2 years. I just didn't know how to stop it. You stop it by stopping him. Permanently. Legally. Sarah looked out at the horizon, where the sun was climbing higher, burning away the morning mist. What would it involve? Working with Sheriff Grant and an FBI contact to document Travis's stalking. Every violation of the restraining order, every threat, every attempt to find you. We'd set up surveillance, controlled scenarios where Travis thinks he's getting close but is actually just digging himself deeper. It'll take weeks, maybe months. And you'd have to trust us, really trust us, to keep you safe while it happens. And if something goes wrong, if he gets past you, Grizzly's voice was granite. He won't. You can't guarantee that. No, Grizzly admitted. I can't guarantee the sun will rise tomorrow either. But I'd bet my life on both. Sarah, I've been doing this for 12 years since I got out, protecting people who can't protect themselves. I've never lost one, not once. And I'm not starting with you and Lily. Sarah was quiet for a long time, processing. Inside the house, Lily began to stir. They could hear her small footsteps padding across the floor, looking for her mother. If I do this, Sarah said slowly, and we win, if Travis goes to prison for real, Lily and I could actually have a life. A real life. Not running, not hiding, just living. Yeah. And if I don't do this, we run forever. And eventually he finds us anyway. That's the reality. Lily appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes, holding her stuffed rabbit. Mama? Mr. Grizzly? Sarah turned to her daughter, seeing not just the frightened child who'd run barefoot into a bar, but the brave soul who'd made an impossible choice and saved both their lives. Baby, come here. We need to talk about something. Grizzly started to stand to give them privacy, but Sarah shook her head. No, stay. This involves you too. Lily climbed into her mother's lap, still small enough to fit perfectly. Sarah took a breath, choosing her words carefully. Remember how I told you we might have to move again? Find a new place to live? Lily nodded, her face falling. I like it here, though. Me too, sweetheart. And Mr. Grizzly and his friends have an idea that might mean we don't have to leave. That might mean Travis can never hurt us again, but it means we have to be very brave for a little while longer. Can you do that? Are we gonna fight the bad man? Sarah smiled through tears. We're going to let the police and Mr. Grizzly fight him. We're just going to be brave and tell the truth about what happened. Lily looked at Grizzly with those impossibly blue eyes. Will you protect us, like you did before? Every single day, Grizzly said. I promise. Then I can be brave, Lily declared with the absolute certainty of childhood. Sarah looked at Grizzly over her daughter's head. Okay, we'll do it. We'll stand and fight. Grizzly felt something shift in his chest. A weight he hadn't known he was carrying suddenly lightening. I'll set up a meeting with Sheriff Grant for tomorrow. We'll lay out the plan. Make it official. Thank you, Sarah said, for giving us a chance to stop running. Thank you, Grizzly replied quietly, for trusting us enough to try. Sheriff Eli Grant sat across from Grizzly and Sarah in his office, a file folder growing thicker by the minute as they documented 2 years of Travis Cole's escalating violence. Restraining order violation in Amarillo, September 2022, Sarah recounted, her voice steady despite the trembling in her hands. He showed up at my work, followed me home. I reported it. They gave him a warning. October 2022, he broke into my apartment while I was sleeping, stood over my bed watching me. I woke up and saw him. Police arrested him, but his brother posted bail and he was out in 6 hours. December 2022, I moved to Wichita Falls, changed my phone number. He found me in 3 weeks, started leaving notes on my car, pictures of Lily at school. Eli wrote furiously, his expression darkening with each revelation. January 2023, I moved to Lubbock. Lasted 2 months before he tracked me through a mutual friend, confronted me in a grocery store parking lot. Security intervened. April 2023, he tried to take Lily from school. Claimed he was her father. He's not. School called police. Another restraining order. Another violation. And then 3 weeks ago, I moved here, to Dusty Creek. I thought maybe this time. But he found me anyway. Eli set down his pen. Sarah, with all due respect, and I mean this in the kindest way possible, why didn't you press charges that stuck? Why keep dropping them? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Because he threatened to kill me if I testified. And I believed him. Because the system kept letting him out. Because I had no money for lawyers. Because every time I tried to fight back, he got more violent. It was easier to run than to fight a battle I thought I'd lose. You won't lose this time, Grizzly said firmly, because you're not fighting alone. Eli nodded. Here's what we're going to do. I'm contacting the FBI's Domestic Terrorism and Stalking Unit. This crosses state lines, which makes it federal jurisdiction. They've got resources I don't. Surveillance equipment, witness protection protocols, prosecutors who specialize in cases like this. He pulled out another form. I'm also filing for an emergency protective order with GPS monitoring. If Travis comes within 1,000 feet of you, Sarah, or any known Angel's property, an alert goes straight to dispatch and to Grizzly's phone. Will that stop him? Sarah asked. No, Eli said honestly, but it'll give us warning. And it's one more violation to add to the pile. We're building a mountain of evidence, Sarah. By the time we're done, Travis Cole's looking at federal stalking charges, terroristic threats, multiple restraining order violations, assault, attempted kidnapping. We stack them right, he's looking at 15 to 20 years minimum. Sarah's breath hitched. Really? Really? But I need you to be strong, because when Travis realizes he's losing control, he's going to escalate. That's when he's most dangerous. That's what we're counting on, Grizzly said. Controlled escalation. We let him think he's getting close, document everything, and when he finally makes his move, we're ready. Eli looked at Grizzly. You understand you're putting yourself and your club at risk? If Travis comes after Sarah and you engage, you could be charged with assault or worse. We'll operate within legal boundaries. Self-defense. Defense of others. Everything documented. Everything by the book. I'm holding you to that, Grizzly. I like you boys, but I can't have a war breaking out in my county. Won't be a war, Sheriff. Just justice. Travis's first attempt to locate Sarah came faster than expected. Bear was on security detail when the cameras picked up a vehicle, a dark blue Chevy pickup, driving slowly past the access road to the safe house. It didn't turn in, but it slowed, as if the driver was marking the location. Bear ran the plates through a contact at the DMV, registered to Derek Cole, Travis's brother. We got movement, Bear radioed to Grizzly. Derek just scouted the location. He see the house? Negative. Road's too long, too many trees. But he knows we've got property out here. Let him look. Make sure cameras got everything. Crystal clear footage, time-stamped, logged. Inside the house, Sarah noticed Bear's tension. What's wrong? Nothing we can't handle. Travis's brother just drove past the access road. Didn't see anything, didn't stop, just checking the area. Sarah's face went pale. He's looking for me. And he's not going to find you. That's the point. Every time he tries and fails, he gets more frustrated. Frustrated men make mistakes. Mistakes give us evidence. Lily looked up from her coloring book. Is the bad man coming? No, sweetheart, Bear said gently. The bad man's brother was just driving around. But he can't get to you. Mr. Bear's bigger than him and meaner too. Lily giggled despite herself. You're not mean. You brought me crayons. I'm mean to bad people, nice to good people. That's the Bear way. That night, Grizzly reviewed the camera footage with Rocco and Eli. Derek's doing reconnaissance for Travis, Rocco observed, testing security, looking for weaknesses. Which means Travis is planning something, Eli added. The question is what and when. We need to be ready for anything, Grizzly said. Double the patrols. I want eyes on this property 24/7, and somebody needs to keep tabs on Travis directly, where he goes, who he talks to, what he's planning. I've got a CI who works at the bar where Travis drinks, Eli said. I'll have her keep ears open. And I'll reach out to my FBI contact, Grizzly said. Push them to expedite the federal case. The longer this drags out, the more chances Travis has to make a move. Sarah found Lily in her room, drawing with the crayons Bear had brought. But this wasn't the usual colorful pictures of horses and sunshine. This was dark. A little girl in pink. A big man with angry red scribbles for a face. And between them, a wall of black figures. Angels, Lily had labeled them, though they looked more like warriors. Baby, what's this? Lily didn't look up. It's me and Mama and the angels. The bad man can't get to us because the angels are protecting us. Sarah sat beside her daughter, heartbreaking. Are you scared, sweetheart? Sometimes. At night, mostly. I hear noises and think maybe he found us. He won't find us, Mr. Grizzly promised. I know. That's why I drew the angels. Lily finally looked up, her young face too serious for her age. Mama, are we always going to have to be protected? Forever and ever? It was the question Sarah had been asking herself. I don't know, baby. But Mr. Grizzly and Sheriff Grant are working on a plan to make sure Travis can never hurt us again. Will they put him in jail forever? For a very long time. Good, Lily said with a ferocity that startled Sarah. He's a bad man. Bad men should be in jail. Sarah hugged her daughter, this fierce little warrior who'd saved both their lives. You're right, sweetheart. They should. That evening, Sarah showed the drawing to Grizzly when he came for the security rotation change. He studied it silently, the crude figures, the protective wall of angels, the red-scribbled monster kept at bay. She's processing trauma, Grizzly said quietly. My therapist made me draw pictures after I got out. Said it helps the brain sort through things words can't handle. You went to therapy? Mandatory for parole. Turned out to be one of the best things that happened to me. He handed the drawing back. She should talk to someone professional. Someone who specializes in childhood trauma. I can't afford. Club's got a therapist on retainer. Dr. Patricia Chen. She works with kids who've witnessed violence. Lily could see her twice a week. No cost. Sarah's eyes filled with tears for what felt like the 100th time. You've thought of everything. Not everything, but we're trying. Grizzly looked at the drawing again. Can I keep this? The picture? Why? Because it reminds me why we're doing this. Why it matters. Sarah handed it to him. She drew you as an angel. You know that, right? That big figure in the front with the beard. Grizzly studied the crude crayon representation of himself, a black-clad figure with wild hair and what might have been a motorcycle. An angel. Nobody's ever called me that before, he said, his voice rough. Well, Lily sees something the rest of the world doesn't. Maybe you should believe her. The FBI agent's name was Marcus Webb, and he looked nothing like Grizzly remembered from their time in federal prison 12 years ago. Back then, Marcus had been serving 18 months for hacking into a defense contractor system. Young, angry, brilliant. Now he was clean-cut, professional, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Grizzly's motorcycle. Never thought I'd see you again, Rex, Marcus said, using Grizzly's real first name. They met at a coffee shop halfway between Dusty Creek and Amarillo neutral territory. Never thought I'd need an FBI agent, Grizzly admitted. But here we are. Marcus had reviewed the file Eli sent. Travis Cole's a textbook stalker. Escalating pattern of violence, interstate pursuit, documented threats. This is exactly the kind of case my unit handles. What do you need from us? Continued documentation. Every contact, every sighting, every violation. Sheriff Grant's GPS monitoring order helps. We can track Travis's movements, prove he's deliberately circumventing the restraining order. But what really seals the case is catching him in the act. In the act of what? Attempted contact, attempted abduction, breaking and entering. Whatever he's planning, we need to catch him doing it with enough evidence that no lawyer can spin it away. Grizzly frowned. You're talking about using Sarah and Lily as bait. I'm talking about creating a controlled environment where Travis thinks he has an opportunity, but actually he's walking into a net. We'd have agents positioned, cameras running, everything documented. When he makes his move, we take him down legally and permanently. And if something goes wrong, if he gets past the net, Marcus met his eyes. Then you and your brothers do what you do best. Protect them. But we build it so nothing goes wrong. Grizzly was silent, weighing the risk. The alternative, Marcus continued, is Sarah runs forever, changes her name, moves across the country, lives in fear, and eventually, maybe a year, maybe 5 years, Travis finds her anyway. You know I'm right. Yeah, Grizzly admitted. I know. So let's end this. Properly. They spent 2 hours planning. Marcus would coordinate with Eli and the local FBI field office. They'd install additional surveillance equipment at the safe house. Cameras, motion sensors, audio recording devices. They'd create a scenario that would lure Travis into making his move. A leak that Sarah was planning to testify at his trial, giving him motivation to act quickly. When do we start? Grizzly asked. I can have my team in place in 72 hours, but I need Sarah's consent. She has to understand what she's agreeing to. I'll talk to her. Sarah listened to the plan in silence, her face unreadable. Grizzly laid it out completely. The FBI involvement, the surveillance, the controlled scenario designed to make Travis believe he had a chance to reach her. When he finished, Sarah walked to the window, staring out at the Texas plains. So you want to use me to trap him? We want to give you a chance to end this permanently. But yes, there's risk involved. What kind of risk? Specifically, Grizzly didn't sugarcoat it. Travis will believe he's found you. He'll attempt to make contact, probably break into wherever we set up the scenario. He'll be armed, probably desperate. The FBI will be watching, but there's always a chance something goes wrong, a chance he gets further than planned. And Lily stays here at the safe house with 4-man security. This scenario would only involve you. Where would it happen? We're thinking a decoy apartment in town. Somewhere Travis can surveil, somewhere that looks believable. You'd stay there for a few days, visible enough for Travis to spot you, isolated enough that he'd think he could approach. And when he does, FBI agents arrest him, on camera, federal charges, with what they'll catch him doing, breaking and entering, stalking, violation of protective orders, plus his prior history, he's looking at 15 to 20 years federal time. Sarah turned to face him. And if the FBI misses him, if he gets to the apartment before they're ready, then I'll be there, in the next room, armed, ready. You'd kill him to protect me. It wasn't a question, but Grizzly answered anyway. Without hesitation, Sarah sat down, her hands trembling. I've spent 2 years running. 2 years looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows, teaching my daughter to be afraid of the world. And I'm tired, Grizzly. I'm so tired of being scared. Then help us end it. What if he wins? What if this plan fails and he... Her voice broke. Grizzly knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his calloused ones. Sarah, look at me. Travis Cole has already lost. He just doesn't know it yet. He's outnumbered, outgunned, and outsmarted. The only question is whether we do this legally with the FBI or whether my brothers and I handle it our way. But either way, he doesn't touch you or Lily again. That's not negotiable. Sarah searched his face, seeing the absolute certainty there. You really mean that? I've never meant anything more in my life. She was quiet for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. We do it your way. The legal way. Because I want Lily to grow up knowing that the system worked, that good people helped us and justice prevailed. I don't want her growing up thinking the only way to be safe is through violence. We'll make it work, Grizzly promised. I swear to you. The FBI moved fast once Sarah gave consent. They rented a second-floor apartment in a modest complex on the east side of Dusty Creek, the kind of place a single mother on a budget would realistically afford. They furnished it sparingly, used furniture, generic artwork, a few touches that suggested Sarah's presence without being obvious. Marcus Webb's team installed cameras in every room, motion sensors on the doors and windows, microphones that could pick up a whisper from 20 feet away. To the outside world, it looked like an ordinary apartment. In reality, it was a digital fortress documenting everything. The team positioned agents in 3 nearby locations: a surveillance van disguised as a cable repair truck, an apartment across the hall rented under a false name, and rotating foot patrols disguised as joggers and dog walkers. She'll never be truly alone, Marcus assured Grizzly. We've got eyes on her 24/7. And what about inside? When Travis breaks in? I'll be in the bedroom closet, Marcus said, armed, wearing a vest. The second he makes physical contact or threatens her, I move. Clean arrest, all on camera. And if he's faster than you think, Marcus gestured to the door, then you come through that door from the stairwell where you'll be positioned. Between me and you, Travis doesn't have a chance. Grizzly examined the setup, looking for weaknesses. The apartment was on the second floor. Travis would have to use the stairs or the external fire escape. Both were covered by cameras. The windows had sensors. The bathroom had a panic button that would alert both the FBI and Grizzly simultaneously. What about the neighbors? Grizzly asked. Someone sees FBI agents crawling around, they'll talk. We've informed the building manager there's an undercover operation. He's cooperating. As for neighbors, we're keeping a low profile. The cable truck doesn't attract attention. People see them all the time. Bear, who'd accompanied Grizzly to inspect the setup, grunted his approval. It's solid. Assuming Travis takes the bait. He'll take it, Marcus said confidently. We're going to let slip through his brother that Sarah's staying here temporarily while looking for permanent housing. That she's visible, alone, vulnerable. Travis won't be able to resist. The leak was carefully orchestrated. Sheriff Eli's confidential informant, a bartender named Rita, who Travis trusted, casually mentioned to Derek Cole that she'd heard the cops relocated Sarah to an apartment in town. Saw her myself at the grocery store yesterday, Rita said. Poor thing looked like she'd been through hell. Heard she's staying over at Creekside Apartments on Elm Street while she looks for work. Derek reported back to Travis within hours. The GPS monitor on Travis's ankle, part of his bail conditions, showed him driving past Creekside Apartments that evening. Slowly. 3 times. He's scouting, Marcus reported to Grizzly. Taking the bait. Inside the decoy apartment, Sarah sat on the couch, very aware of the cameras watching her, the microphones recording her breathing, the FBI agent hidden 15 feet away in her bedroom closet. Grizzly was positioned in the stairwell 1 floor down, dressed in black, armed with a Glock 19 and wearing a Kevlar vest under his leather jacket. He had a clear view of both staircases through a crack in the door. You okay? Marcus's voice came through Sarah's earpiece, barely audible. Terrified, Sarah admitted. But okay. He won't get to you. I promise. But the hours dragged by with no movement. Travis drove past 3 more times over the next 2 days but didn't approach. He's being cautious, Marcus said during a debrief. Testing the setup, looking for surveillance. Or he suspects it's a trap, Grizzly countered. Possible, but his GPS shows he's obsessed. Driving past at all hours, parking down the street, watching. He wants to make his move. He's just waiting for the right moment. How long do we maintain this? As long as it takes. We've got Sarah in rotation. She's only here 6 hours a day, spends nights back at the safe house with Lily. We're not actually leaving her exposed overnight. But Grizzly could see the strain on Sarah. Every day playing the role of vulnerable victim, knowing Travis was watching, waiting. It was taking a toll. On day 22, Sarah broke down. I can't do this anymore, she told Grizzly, tears streaming down her face. They were in the decoy apartment during her shift, and she'd just spotted Travis's truck parked 3 blocks away for the 4th time that day. He's playing with me, watching me, knowing I see him but can't do anything about it. It's psychological torture. I know. I'm sorry. What if he never makes his move? What if he just watches forever? What if this whole plan fails and I've put myself through this for nothing? Grizzly had no answer. Because she was right. Travis was being smart, patient, waiting for an opening that might never come. That night, he met with Marcus and Eli. We need to force his hand, Grizzly said. Sarah can't take much more of this. How do you suggest we do that? Marcus asked. Make him believe she's leaving. Leak that she's planning to move out of state, that this is his last chance. Eli frowned. That could make him reckless. Reckless means dangerous. Dangerous is what we need, Grizzly said. Right now he's too cautious. We need him desperate. Marcus considered. It could work. If he thinks she's leaving permanently, he'll have to act fast. No time to plan. No time to scout properly. He'll make mistakes. And mistakes get him caught, Grizzly finished. Or they get Sarah hurt, Eli warned. Not with the setup we have. We'll increase security. More agents, tighter perimeter. But we give Travis a 48-hour window. Sarah's moving to California on Friday. He's got until Friday to make his move or lose her forever. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll run it by my supervisor. But if we do this, everyone needs to be ready. Because when Travis comes, he'll come hard. Rita delivered the message to Derek at the bar. Heard Sarah Matthews is leaving town. Friday morning. Moving to California to stay with some cousin. Guess she finally gave up on Texas. Derek told Travis, and Travis's GPS showed him driving to Creekside Apartments that same night. Not just driving past, parking, watching, for hours. He's committed, Marcus reported. This is it. He's planning something. They had 48 hours. Sarah spent those 2 days in a fog of fear and anticipation. Lily, still safely at the ranch house, drew more pictures, darker ones, where the angels and the bad man were in battle. Grizzly barely slept, maintaining his position in the stairwell, watching the feeds, communicating with Marcus's team. Thursday night arrived. Sarah's last night in the apartment before her move to California. The sun set, darkness fell. The building settled into quiet, and Travis Cole's GPS went dark. He cut the monitor, Eli reported urgently. He's off grid. He's coming, Grizzly said, chambering around in his Glock. Tonight. Marcus positioned himself in the bedroom closet, night vision goggles on, weapon ready. 2 FBI agents moved into the apartment across the hall. The surveillance van powered up all equipment. And Grizzly descended the stairwell, positioning himself directly outside Sarah's apartment door, back against the wall, invisible in the shadows. Sarah sat on the couch, reading a book she couldn't focus on, every nerve screaming with tension. 10 p.m., nothing. 11 p.m., nothing. 11:47 p.m., a sound. Faint. Metal on metal. The fire escape. Marcus's voice in Sarah's earpiece. Movement on the east fire escape. Stay calm, we've got you. Sarah's hand shook so badly the book fell from her grip. The window sensor alarmed silently. Someone was opening the window from outside. Grizzly moved silently toward the door, hand on the knob, ready. The window slid open with a soft scrape, and Travis Cole climbed through, his silhouette backlit by the streetlight outside. He was dressed in black, wearing gloves, carrying what looked like a knife. He stood in Sarah's living room, breathing hard, eyes adjusting to the darkness. Sarah froze on the couch, exactly as instructed. Make him commit. Let him speak. Get everything on camera. Travis saw her. Hello, Sarah. His voice was soft, almost gentle. The voice he'd used when they first met, before the violence started. You really thought you could leave me? Move to California? Start over without me? Sarah's voice shook. Travis, please, just leave. You don't have to do this. I have every right. You're mine. You've always been mine. He moved closer. Grizzly's hand tightened on the doorknob. Marcus watched through the crack in the bedroom door, weapon raised, waiting for the right moment. I gave you everything, Travis continued, his voice rising. And you ran. You turned my daughter against me. She's not your daughter. Sarah's fear transformed into anger. You're not her father. You never were. Travis's expression twisted with rage. Then I'll make sure she doesn't have a mother either. He raised the knife, and everything happened at once. FBI! Drop the weapon! Marcus exploded from the bedroom. The apartment door crashed open. Grizzly charged through. Travis spun, knife raised. Lunging Travis lunged toward Sarah. Marcus fired, not to kill, center mass, stopping the threat. The shot echoed in the small apartment like thunder. Travis dropped, knife clattering across the floor. Alive but down. Grizzly was on him in seconds, knee in his back, cuffing him while Marcus secured the weapon. Sarah, you're safe, Marcus called. Stay down. FBI agents poured in from every direction. The apartment erupted in controlled chaos. Agents securing the scene, paramedics called, cameras documenting everything. Travis screamed curses, threats, promises of revenge, even as blood soaked his shoulder. Sarah collapsed into sobs, relief, terror, exhaustion all pouring out at once. Grizzly pulled her to her feet, guided her away from Travis's writhing form. It's over. You're safe. He's done. Lily! I need to see Lily. Bear's bringing her now. She's safe. Everyone's safe. Travis was in surgery for the gunshot wound, then would be transported directly to federal custody. Marcus assured Sarah he'd never see freedom again. Federal stalking, attempted murder, breaking and entering, weapons charges, assault on a federal operation, Marcus listed. Plus violation of bail. He's looking at 25 years minimum, federal prison, no parole. Sarah stood in the hospital hallway, Lily clinging to her, both of them shaking but alive. It's really over, Sarah whispered. It's over, Grizzly confirmed. Lily looked up at him. The bad man can't hurt us anymore? Never again, kid. I promise. Lily launched herself at Grizzly, tiny arms wrapping around his waist. Thank you for being our angel. Grizzly knelt, holding this small warrior who'd saved her mother and changed his life. Thank you for being brave enough to ask for help. The trial was swift. Travis pled guilty to avoid federal prosecution recommending life. 28 years in federal prison. No contact orders. Permanent. Sarah and Lily moved into a small house on the edge of Dusty Creek. Not hiding, but living. Sarah got a job at Harper's Cafe. Lily started school, making friends, drawing pictures of sunshine instead of shadows. The Hells Angels. Amarillo chapter became regular customers at Harper's. Every Saturday morning, bikes lined up outside while brothers ate breakfast and Lily served them donuts for my angels. Grizzly visited 3 times a week, checking in, fixing things around Sarah's house, teaching Lily to ride a bicycle. One evening, Sarah found him on her porch, watching the sunset. "You don't have to keep protecting us," she said softly. "We're safe now." "I know," Grizzly said, "but maybe I'm not here just for protection anymore." Sarah sat beside him. "Then why are you here?" "Because that little girl running into Jake's saved more than just you." "She saved me too, reminded me that redemption's possible, that sometimes broken people can still do good things." "You were never broken, Rex. You were just waiting for the right reason to be whole." They sat in comfortable silence as Lily played in the yard, her laughter carrying on the evening breeze. "She wants to know if you'll come to her school play next week," Sarah said. "She's playing an angel. Says she needs her real angel there to see it." Grizzly smiled, that rare, genuine expression that transformed his weathered face. Wouldn't miss it for the world. 1 year later, the annual Hells Angels charity ride raised $50,000 for domestic violence shelters across Texas. Sarah Matthews spoke at the event, telling her story, thanking the brothers who'd answered a desperate child's cry for help. Lily, now 8 years old, presented a painting to the chapter. All the brothers as angels with motorcycles and wings, protecting women and children beneath them. The painting hung in the clubhouse with a plaque. Sometimes heroes wear leather, sometimes angels ride Harleys, and sometimes salvation arrives when a brave little girl runs toward strangers and asks them to save her mama. Grizzly stood with his brothers, watching Sarah and Lily smile, truly smile, for the first time in years. Bull clapped him on the shoulder. "You did good, brother." "We all did," Grizzly corrected. "That's what brothers do." And as the engines roared to life for the charity ride, carrying hope and protection to others who needed it, Grizzly understood that sometimes the road to redemption starts with a single moment of courage. Sometimes it starts with a barefoot little girl in a torn nightgown running toward the unknown and trusting that someone will answer when she cries for help. And sometimes those who answer find they needed saving just as much. 2 years later, Grizzly walked Sarah down the aisle, not as a protector, but as the man who'd become family. Lily was flower girl, wearing white and beaming. The wedding was small, the clubhouse decorated with flowers and chrome, brothers standing as groomsmen, Sarah marrying a good man, a teacher who loved her scars and her strength equally. But when Grizzly gave Sarah away, she whispered, "Thank you. For everything. For believing we were worth saving." "You saved me first," Grizzly whispered back. "Never forget that." As he stepped back, Lily grabbed his hand. "You'll always be our angel, Mr. Grizzly. Always. And you'll always be the bravest kid I know." The ceremony began. Vows were spoken. Families were joined. And in the back row, 20 Hells Angels sat together. Rough men with soft hearts, warriors who'd chosen to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. Heroes don't always wear badges. Sometimes they wear leather. Sometimes they ride Harleys. Thank you so much for watching this story with me today. If Sarah and Lily's journey moved you, if Grizzly and his brothers reminded you that heroism comes in all forms, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Your support keeps these stories alive and helps them reach people who need to hear them. And sometimes, when a desperate child runs crying into the darkness, they're exactly the angels the world needs. This story is dedicated to survivors of domestic violence, to the brave souls who ask for help, and to the unexpected heroes who answer. Drop a comment below. Have you ever witnessed an unexpected act of heroism? Have you been helped by a stranger when you needed it most? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that good people still exist, that courage can be found in the darkest moments, and that asking for help is the bravest thing anyone can do. Until next time, remember, heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather, and sometimes they're just waiting for someone brave enough to ask. Take care of yourselves and each other. I'll see you in the next story, you.